back. We have a lot in store for you.
I'm ready for a story adventure.
So come on, we'll show you it's true.
Cartoons that every child, even adults, should be watching. Weekdays from 4:30 to 7. Get playful on ViuTV6. The hottest local news, trending international stories, weekly review, topics that affect our communities, in-depth analyses and opinions. All that you need is in one place. Weekly review. Tonight at 9 on ViuTV6.
Good evening, I'm Grace Brown in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. CY Leung takes aim again at the Foreign Correspondents Club, saying it may as well invite terrorists to speak after pushing ahead with a talk by pro-independence advocate Andy Chan. The Land Supply Task Force turns to cold, calling Hong Kong for their opinions as the deadline for public consultations draws near. President Trump ups the ante in the US trade war with China, claiming his tariffs are working better than he thought. First up tonight, another twist in the saga involving the Hong Kong National Party. Former Chief Executive CY Leung has joined the debate, slamming the Foreign Correspondents Club for inviting party convener Andy Chan to speak. Leung penned an open letter to the FCC on Facebook saying it should know Hong Kong independence is a red line. He went on to say the planned talk has nothing to do with press freedom and even went so far as to question whether the club will start inviting terrorists and criminals to speak in future. Andy Chan's talk is scheduled to go ahead on August 14th. Chief Executive Carrie Lam has also weighed in, saying she's very disappointed at the FCC's decision. For more on this, I'm joined by our reporter, Almond Lee. Almond, it's a fairly frosty letter that the former Chief Executive has penned to the FCC, probably not drawing any line against taking in criminals and terrorists as well, he says. What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, I think it's not fair to compare things like this, and I would rebut that. It's actually, it is indeed a matter of freedom of speech and freedom of press. One thing that CY is about. Journalism is that it's all about fairness and balance. So, people, no matter you're for or against the city's independence, they deserve a platform to talk about, to express their views, and that Carrie Lam, we heard from her just a couple of hours ago. She took CY's and Beijing's side, saying that she's disappointed, and also she hopes that FCC will respect Hong Kong is indeed an inseparable part of China.
Leung was actually dubbed Beijing's puppet during his term and after. How are his comments on this being received?
Well, it's actually not the first time that CY Leung has commented about sensitive political issues such as Hong Kong independence. He previously commented on another localist group, Hong Kong Indigenous, and also his spokesperson, Edward Leung, saying that his advocacy for Hong Kong independence is a bad influence on other young people. So he has been very vocal when it comes to things that could upset the Chinese government, And in fact, he posted 3 social media posts within the past 48 hours just talking about the Andy Chan talk at the FCC. And his latest one warned Hong Kongers that the speech may not seem like a threat to national security at this moment, but it will be a precedent if his talk does happen as planned. So, of course, there are supporters who backed his opinions, agreeing with him that independence, just talking about independence crossed Beijing's red line. But there are also criticism saying that his act and opinions are signs of shrinking freedom of press in Hong Kong.
Almond Lee, thank you very much for that update. Well, amid this controversy, the Hong Kong Journalists Association is again warning of the city's eroding freedom of speech. Speaking on RTHK's letter to Hong Kong, Chairman Chris Young is partly blaming Beijing's influence over the SAR. The association's annual report warns there's a growing trend of self-censorship across media outlets as the central government uses national security to justify interfering.
In view of the growing political and capital power of the mainland in Hong Kong, there are growing concerns that pressure for journalists to censor their work has and will become more subtle. It is vitally important for us to maintain an even higher level of vigilance against any threats to the city's core values of freedom of speech and freedom of the press.
To the latest now on Hong Kong's land supply crunch, the Land Supply Task Force is turning to phone interviews to see which ideas have the most public support. It's hoping to run through possible solutions with about 3,000 people. The findings will then be prepared for the chief executive before her upcoming policy address. Public consultations on land supply wrap up in about a month. Task Force Vice Chairman Greg Wong says they're still not sure, though, how successful the phone survey will be.
If we find many of the respondents don't want to share their opinions on all 18 questions, then there will be a high chance we will only ask the first 10 questions. We might leave out the more theoretical questions. Right now, we are just waiting for the results of this test.
The city's main e-waste recycling operator, Alba, is now reportedly refusing to remove some appliances from households. In one case, Alba refused to collect an old air conditioner compressor from this household, which had just replaced its old appliance. Alba says it won't collect devices that have been taken apart and is merely following government instructions. Previously, though, the Environment Secretary said as long as items are so-called regulated electrical equipment, e-waste recyclers must remove them. Hong Kong will spend $500 million to develop the city's Chinese medicine industry. In announcing the funding boost, Carrie Lam pointed to a Chinese medicine department in the Food and Health Bureau set up earlier this year. The CE says her administration will see how Chinese medicine can play a bigger role in the public health system. They're also looking at how a Chinese medicine hospital here would operate. Casual staff make up a healthy chunk of Hong Kong's workforce, but a new study's found an alarming number feel they're exploited by bosses. The Alliance for Casual Workers surveyed more than 500 people, with 9 in 10 saying there's unfair treatment. 4 in every 5 respondents believe part-time staff aren't earning nearly enough, so much so many are stuck in poverty. The group is urging the government to review the employment ordinance and close loopholes depriving those workers of basic benefits. Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Let's start with a look at the business stories shaping the week. Hong Kong's set to host the biggest IPO the world has seen in 2 years when China Tower begins trading. But early signs suggest it might miss expectations. China Towers raised just under $7 billion ahead of Wednesday's listing, almost $2 billion less than it was hoping for. It's also priced its shares at the bottom of its range at 1.26 Hong Kong dollars. The float's widely seen as a test of Hong Kong's IPO market after some disappointing debuts lately. The Hang Seng Index is now down about 14% from its January peak. Also this week, HSBC reports its second quarter results on Monday after revealing higher operating costs. Low interest rates could also curb revenues, but analysts expect a lift from its investment banking arm. Cathay Pacific's second quarter results are released on Wednesday after its biggest annual loss in 5 years. The airline's cutting jobs and pilot benefits as it battles rising competition from Chinese carriers. And Hong Kong's second quarter GDP is out Friday. The city's growth surged 2.2% last quarter, but it's now under growing strain from US-China trade tensions. US President Donald Trump has upped the ante in the trade war with China, claiming his tariffs are working. He's tweeted the remarks, saying the import levies are having a far better impact than anticipated. He also cited losses in China's stock markets, while forecasting US markets could go up dramatically if trade deals are renegotiated. State media has hit back, saying Beijing was restrained by only imposing retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of US goods. It's also accusing the Trump administration of blackmail for threatening new taxes on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports. Samsung, though, seems to be swallowing its pride and learning from its rivals in one of the world's biggest smartphone markets. It's looking to grow in India by adopting tactics used by its Chinese competitors. Grace Lee reports.
Bollywood star Tiger Shroff is head over heels for Samsung's Galaxy On6. He's the face of the company's new push in India as it tries to take on its biggest rivals in the region, Chinese tech giants. And as Reuters' Sankau Pardial explains, that means learning some tricks from the rivals themselves.
Samsung is launching a range of phones in the $150 to $300 bracket, which is the fastest growing smartphone segment in India. The company has taken a page out of its Chinese rivals' playbook to launch devices with metallic bodies, nifty features, and good cameras.
It's pulling out all the stops in the country in hopes of staying competitive in the world's #2 smartphone market. India has about 400 million users and is worth about $20 billion annually. Samsung has been investing heavily. This month, it opened what it calls the world's biggest phone factory outside of New Delhi, allowing the firm to double the number of phones it makes in India. But the company has to be cautious. 1 out of every 2 phones in the country are now from Chinese makers, and Samsung knows all too well what might happen next. 5 years ago, it had 20% of the market in China, only to see that fall to less than 1% this year, outgunned by companies like Huawei, Xiaomi, and Vivo, particularly on pricing.
One of the biggest toy companies in the world is changing its foundations for the better. And by that, I'm talking about Lego. It's unveiled its first range of sustainable pieces, including green-colored leaves, bushes, and trees made entirely from plant-based plastic. They'll go on sale later this year. And this is just the first step. Lego says it's aiming to use 100% sustainable materials and packaging by 2030.
We're a company that deals, exclusively with children, and children ultimately inherit the planet. And for us, it's very important that we're not ruining the planet making a toy for children. That logic doesn't stack up.
Time for a break now, but when we return, drones rigged with explosives target Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, in what he calls an assassination attempt. More on that when we return.
There's a saying that goes, all you need is 6 dots to connect the world. Knowledge comes from curiosity about our planet. Classic is the prized collection of 73 billion people. Art is the soulmate who you've been waiting for. The world is a collective dream. Fall in love with life. Seize the heart-pounding moment. Be a perfect mirror. Stay true to yourself. The world is bigger than you think. See beyond what you see. Channel 96 ViuTV6. Connect the world. The best non-fiction features
Everybody very afraid to walk alone in the street.
It's very hard for Americans actually to go to Cuba. They don't want you to go there, even today.
New ways to engage reality.
The whole process is a life lesson for the kids. They see the evolution.
It could be the same, it could be something different. You know, it's really how you take it and what you learn from when you lose.
Transforming your 1 hour TV time into an exceptional cinematic experience. Theatre 96. Tonight at 9:30 on ViuTV6. Take a trip to the land down under. Behind every native animal surviving in the wild.
Can we talk about this?
Or the furry babies living in different households.
This is a massive open gash. I don't think a positioning is too bad.
There's a dedicated veterinary team.
That's just such a good result.
Because animal lives matter.
Look after my girl.
Thank you so much.
Bondi Vet. Tonight at 8 on ViuTV6. Veteran coach.
很多学生可能会冲着我而去。
New coach on the block.
我将会用音乐和你们认真玩。
Sing China. Friday night at 9. Live on Channel 96 ViuTV6. From raw materials to finished products.
The world is a better place because of caramel.
Or inspiring details.
There's 700 different condiments here at Beauty Foods.
Wonderful processes.
All natural ingredients that was made with hand.
Get ready to witness the birth of your favorite nibbles. Food Factory. Tonight at 7:30 on ViuTV6.
Welcome back. There's been an apparent failed assassination attempt on Venezuela's president. An explosion rocked a military event which was being broadcast on state television. Take a look.
Llegado la hora de la recuperación económica y
That blast you'll have heard was, according to the government, caused by a drone carrying explosives which detonated during Nicolas Maduro's speech. Hundreds of soldiers were seen running off in the seconds after the apparent attack before the live television feed was cut off. A little-known group called the National Movement of Soldiers in T-shirts is claiming responsibility. But Maduro has his own thoughts on who's behind this.
There has been an attempt to assassinate me. I have no doubt this all points to the extreme right in Venezuela in alliance with the right in Colombia, and that Colombia's president, Juan Manuel Santos, is behind this attempt. I have no doubt.
A heat wave is gripping parts of Europe, bringing drought and wildfires, and Portugal is feeling the full force with forest blazes sparked by record high temperatures. More than 700 firefighters and water-carrying aircraft are battling the flames in the southern Algarve region. 2 nearby villages have also been evacuated since the fire started on Saturday. Portugal is hoping to prevent a repeat of last year's fires, which claimed 114 lives. Another natural disaster, meanwhile, has gripped parts of India. Heavy rains in the state of Uttar Pradesh have caused floods that swept through cities along the Ganges River. Unrelenting rains over the past few weeks have wreaked havoc across the state, displacing thousands of people. Authorities are assessing some of the hardest hit areas and have already set up facilities to help people affected. The US is demanding the immediate release of 2 Reuters reporters arrested while investigating a mass killing of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo directly appealed to the country's foreign minister on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. Havovi Cooper reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called for the immediate release of 2 Reuters reporters detained in Myanmar when he met the country's foreign ministers on the sidelines of a regional conference in Singapore. According to the State Department, Pompeo expressed concern about the ongoing detention and called for their immediate release. Chow So-u and his colleague Wallon are facing up to 14 years in prison in Myanmar, accused of possessing secret government papers. Both have pleaded not guilty to the charges and have told the court how they were, quote, trapped by police officials who planted the documents on them. A Myanmar government spokesman responded to Pompeo's call for the reporter's release by saying the case was already before the court. At the time of their arrest in December, the journalists had been investigating the killing of Rohingya Muslims during an army crackdown in a village in Rakhine State. UN agencies estimate that the killings have sent nearly 700,000 people fleeing to Bangladesh. The US has imposed sanctions on one Myanmar general who was in charge in Rakhine. On Saturday, the State Department did not say if the U.S. has plans to take any further action against Myanmar over the issue of the journalists or the wider Rohingya crisis.
Well, while Mike Pompeo was in Singapore, his boss decided to reignite a fight with one of the most recognizable sports stars on earth. In a sharp tweet, Donald Trump took aim at LeBron James, questioning his intelligence. Although in an awkward twist, First Lady Melania Trump backed the NBA star, praising his community work. Yaharia Jaquez reports.
Twitter users erupting in anger Saturday after President Trump took a shot at LeBron James. In a tweet Friday night, the U.S. president said, quote, LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. The tweet was in response to an interview with James on CNN after the NBA star opened a new elementary school for at-risk children in his home state, Ohio.
Kids just want to know if we care about them.
John Kasich, the governor of Ohio and opponent to Trump in the 2016 presidential race, jumped in, saying, quote, rather than criticizing King James, we should be celebrating him for his charity work. James, on numerous occasions, has criticized Trump. Last year, he called him a, quote, bum after the U.S. president rescinded an invitation to the Golden State Warriors to visit the White House after winning the NBA championship. In a final dig at James, the president's tweet finished with, quote, I like Mike, a reference to the ongoing LeBron James versus Michael Jordan debate on who's the greatest NBA player of all time. James has yet to respond to the president's tweet.
While LeBron James might not have found himself in Trump's good graces, another American celebrity seems to have had better luck with a different leader. Steven Seagal has been tapped by Moscow to help improve ties with the U.S. That's right, the 66-year-old actor who was adopted by Russia back in 2016 will be the Foreign Ministry's special representative for Russian-U.S. humanitarian ties. It's a role that's apparently meant to deepen cultural relations between the two nations. The government's even compared his position to that of a UN Goodwill ambassador, and Seagal, it seems, couldn't be more pleased.
My greatest desire is to bring Russia and America together. It always has been.
Его величайшее желание соединить Россию и Америку, людей в России и Америке, чтобы они были вместе душой.
And music is the language of the gods. It's the one language that all people understand. It's the one language that brings all people together.
Time for sports. Let's start with football because Gareth Bale's World Cup form has carried over for his club. A stunning goal from the England star has helped Real Madrid score a come-from-behind win over Juventus in a friendly. Juve were up 1-0 courtesy of an own goal before Bale equalised with a thumping half volley. The Spanish giants then went on with the job, scoring another 2 goals in front of thousands of screaming fans at the FedEx Field in the U.S. state of Maryland. But the crowd was denied a glimpse of Juve's new signing, Cristiano Ronaldo, who left Real last month. He's on an extended break after Portugal's disappointing World Cup showing, but his manager is making no excuses for the loss.
The squad is always Real Madrid. Real Madrid is a strong team. We're happy to have Cristiano, especially on the international stage and the experience that he brings to the club. However, Real Madrid will always be a competitive club with or without Cristiano.
In tennis, defending champion Alexander Zverev has cruised into the final of the City Open to set up a showdown with Australia's Alex de Minaur. The world number 3 needed just 87 minutes to dispose of Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-2, 6-4. Zverev only dropped 1 point on his first serve and took advantage of his opponent's poor serving in the first set. The German is seeking his 3rd title of 2018. When it comes to Grand Prix, Bolivia might not be the first country that springs to mind while the South American nation isn't hosting Formula One anytime soon, but it does have a race which is arguably more fun. Hundreds of people have tested out their homemade go-karts on the streets of the capital. Sean Hassett reports.
Go-karting has been a regular fixture for local families in La Paz since the 1950s. It's seen as a way of getting parents and children working together, using both brains and brawn. All go-karts in the race have to be homemade. They're pulled together using various spare parts. Some karts are more sophisticated than others, and some have room for more than one occupant.
My kart's very safe. I'm here competing with my entire family, waiting to arrive at the finish line and win a medal.
But it's not just the fastest kart that wins a prize. Medals are also handed out for vehicle ingenuity and design. Go-karting in La Paz has an added challenge. The city is 3,700 metres above sea level, but the locals are used to the high altitude.
It was very nice. I liked racing. I didn't fall from my kart because I was headed towards the stands and I was able to handle it well, even though I crashed at the beginning. But I liked it. It was a very nice race, really.
And if the smiles are anything to go by, that's a popular opinion.
Looks like a lot of fun. That's it for now. Join us again at 11:30 p.m. for an update on the stories shaping your world. I'm Grace Brown, and this is ViuTV News.